She didn't cry. She was born and she opened one eye and looked around the hospital walls. And then they gave her to me. And she opened both eyes and looked me directly in the eyes. There was such a command, in a way, in the way she looked at me. Very austere, like mother. Like this old authority just in her look, straight through me. It was almost it made me humble to see this eyes looking directly through. And then she didn't really leave my side, and then for 2 days I was in the hospital with her in these first moments of life. And at a certain stage, the doctors wanted to give her the injection. And so they took her, and I came with her, and injected into her little foot, into the back of her foot, something. And she cried. And then they put her back inside the aquarium there in Israel. And she was crying, and then she went like this. Like this, centering back again to this space. It was amazing to watch it, because in a way, that's how, in its naturalness, life moves by itself without us doing anything. It naturally moves towards harmony. It naturally moves towards this incredible symmetry of left and right and balance, which we call beauty, if we just let it. You see this already at the atomic scale, the nanoscale. This is like about the size of a nanometer is about the width of a human hair. The tiniest building blocks of matter, and this is what we're made of. So in the first arising, it self-assembles. It puts itself together into form. So a scientist at this level, they can't make stuff happen, they can't create it. What they can do is put down the environment around, like we do as healers, to create the environment where life can do its thing uninterrupted. And what you see there, at that dimension, is the most beautiful symmetries and trees. And it looks like nature, actually.
How come some children, young children, have very old eyes because they have suffered a lot and they look like old people? They then couldn't resolve that.
I think that we all of us have very, very, very old eyes. At least in all the babies that I've seen, when they're just born, before they become babies in a way, like we know babies to be like babies. So at that first newborn stage, there is this incredible timelessness, timeless wisdom of, and you would kind of call it oldness because it's got the quality of been there, done that, like they've lived before. And maybe what you're talking about is those babies which are born and they're quite angry to be born. Sometimes it's like that because something hasn't been resolved, so they come with a need to resolve something. But that's exactly the thing about life. We think about life as beginning when we're born and ending when we die. And the big classical argument with cynics is that, or atheists in its stereotypical form, is that there's no life after death. It's not possible, it's not scientific, it's not possible. And this is a deep program of the mind about life, that it begins when we're born and that it ends when we die. And we don't need to create beliefs or to take a leap of trust to have the utter and total evidence everywhere that life is always here. Or every single human on the planet could die, and the planet would still be alive. There would still be this life. So, are we alive? Are we that life? So something is expressing through life and the layers of forms which is expressed on a newborn baby. So a form has arisen in the life which is always here, and the baby is the life as well. At the source, the baby's alive. And this form of a baby is entering this ocean of life, or growing out of it. And it can be a form which comes from a previous form, taken over. At the more subtle layers, there can be a trauma from the last time. There is death, but beyond our physical death, we're dying all the time. We look for that thing which is stable enough to die, we won't find it. We won't find something which is not dying here now, already. So the individual dies at the end of a life. This is an incredible, beautiful process. And I don't mean beautiful in terms of pleasant and good, I mean truthful. So Georgi will die. No question about it, this we can trust. But Georgi has been dying a lot this time, in this period of time. And always, there's this duality, always with the death comes a birth, with the death comes a birth. If we could just die and let Georgi go and be quiet already, that would be something, but it's not. It always, the more you let go, the more it receives. This is the movement. And this is the essence of receptivity. When we grasp towards something and try and hold it, whether with our eyes or with our listening or with our feeling, when we try and hold on to it, life closes down, there's a contraction. If we experience something and immediately let it go, there's an expansion. It becomes more alive. The less we grasp, the more we come to life. The less we try and hold on to something, the more it becomes alive. Which doesn't mean it's always going to be here bothering us if it's a bad thing. It's also the more it transforms, because life is a perpetual transformation. It's very, very quick. Even, and I take a good example, because often we repress pleasure more than we repress pain. Seriously. We are very attracted towards our ailments and our pains and our traumas, and tend to invite that, and towards our inner nightmares, in a way. And all the time we're doing that, we're kind of not wanting to feel pleasure now, not wanting to relax now, not wanting to feel how good it is to be here in a physical body. We're much more concerned with the pain we have in the ankle than we are with the well-being of the whole physical and the pleasure it's experienced in breathing with its feet on the ground, which is really a pleasurable thing. So I take a pleasure example, because we're often blocked with bliss. When we experience pleasure, there's a feeling of pleasure. If we really just let it go, and let it go doesn't mean reject it, not at all. It doesn't mean deny it. It means just be for real. Go back to the norm, and with the pleasure. Then what tends to happen is that it expands more. It loses its borders. We experience pleasure, and the normal reflex is to kind of give it a space. Okay, this is nice because I'm being stroked on the cheek, so the pleasure is here. If we don't do that, if we let it just go, let it be, it will expand. It will expand beyond our own personal world. So letting go is very connected with sharing in a way. It's sharing it with the universe. Not holding on, not grasping. In the same way with something painful, if we don't, because rejection is very close to grasping. In a way, rejecting is also a kind of grasping, because it's taking something out of the whole and saying, I don't want this. So in a way, it's grasping it energetically at the same time. It's also separating. So in the same way, when there is an uncomfortable feeling coming forward or something painful, if we push it away, if we reject it, we're also, in a way, keeping it. We're stopping its transformation. We're taking away its life. We're making it even more contracted. Whereas if we don't do anything with what we want to reject or what's with unpleasant, but just let it be there, it tends to lose its identity. And in its loss of naming, like this is pain, it can almost become curious, interesting, mysterious. We can experience pain as quite a pleasant thing. This is possible at the same time. So in these days, our direction is to move into the receptive universe, which is always going to involve a willingness to receive what everything we felt was other than ourselves, which comes forward in any moment. It involves a willingness to allow that which appears to be separate from us, to allow that this is also here in our universe. Without getting involved with it, but just allowing it. So you add, when she was a little bit older, she was about 3. We lived on a cliff edge near the sea, and there's many beaches, different kinds of beaches, quite dramatically different, some of them very still with islands, and some of them with rocks and crashing waves. And we were going to the sea with all the children, and they were all killing each other in the back of the car about which beach to go to, and arguing as usual. And she was the youngest. One of the other one was a baby. And at a certain stage, it was quiet because they were all steaming with the argument, which beach we go to. And she said, "It doesn't matter which beach we go to. It's always the same sea." And so if in these days we can begin to experience that it's this life, this sea of life is always the same through all of us, then we are doing a beautiful service, not just for ourselves, but for life itself.